Good evening. I'm going to make a confession. I'm going to confess to you something that I've told very few people. It's not a confession I thought that I was going to give today when I woke up. It's not a confession I thought I would give yesterday or last week. I thought maybe one day I would confess this, but I don't know. I guess I've put it off. I've put it off for good reason because, well, I tried to confess it years ago. I tried to make this confession, not in a church, not to clergy. I tried to make this confession to people I knew, people I respected, people I thought highly of, but I didn't make the confession. I mean, I started to make the confession. I really earnestly started to. But I got to a certain point and, well, they just got freaked out. They got freaked out. I mean, what do you do when you're confessing something and the person you confess to starts freaking? Before you get anywhere close to the actual confession, lights come on sometimes at odd moments. Whether that holds any meaning for you is to be determined. So I'm going to confess to you. I hope you don't freak. I mean, I truly hope you don't freak. Maybe one thing that could help is that the first time that I tried to make this confession was 15 years ago. 15 years ago, I tried to confess to one person and another, to several, but I just couldn't get past a certain point. The people I started to confess to got really nervous. A couple, got kind of panicky. So I've basically held this confession at bay for all this time. I haven't wanted to hold it at bay. I mean, I've been really ready to confess for a long time. So, here's how I started to confess. I started to talk about the idea of having less stress. Well, 15 years ago, that made quite a few people kind of nervous. Jittery, I gotta go. That kind of thing. Others stood around, hung around for a few more seconds. But when I started to suggest that maybe it's possible to decrease stress so far that a person could be maybe without stress a good deal of the time, well, a number of other people left. So if you're still here, if you haven't clicked the stop, I guess I can continue to confess to you. As it happened, I did end the habit of stress for all intents and purposes. I mean, by intents, well, the intention was to end it, and I ended it. And grew my life from there. But ending stress isn't what I came here to confess to you. If you've gotten this far, you've gotten further than most everyone I've tried to talk with about this. 15 years ago, ending stress was tantamount to, I don't know, killing yourself. Many people thought, oh, well, if you actually ended stress, you must be completely stark raving mad. There's no way you could carry on a conversation even if you actually ended stress, because, stress is required in order to function as a human being. That was the thinking, anyway, of many people 15 years ago. Today, I think it's a little different. That's why I've decided to try making this public. I mean, I'm coming out of the no stress closet here. And I don't mean to say that coming out of any closet is easy. This is not a farcical video, nor do I intend others to be farcical. For me to say, hey, I don't have stress almost all the time, is a kind of, I don't know, oxymoronic thing to say for many people. But that's not what I came here to confess to you tonight. The sky is getting darker. There's still a good bit of light. I kind of like the idea that things are getting darker as I speak here with you. So I'll get to it. In August of 1999, something happened. I was at a beach, and I'd been counting grains of sand in my hand. I'd put a line of grains in my hand, and I would count them. I was trying to count the grains, see how many in a centimeter, multiply out to get a cubic centimeter, multiply further to get a cubic meter, and if I could, multiply even further to figure out how many grains of sand were at about a 100-yard wide beach, 100-meter wide even, by a bunch of miles long. I was trying to get a vague conception of how many grains of sand were there at the beach so that I could compare to the number of stars thought to be in the universe. I did this several times. I kept failing at my multiplication. I've generally had remedial multiplication abilities. So after a few tries, it didn't happen. But as I was counting the grains of sand again, a ray of the sun glanced off of, or actually refracted through one of the grains of sand and hit my eye. The ray of the sun sparked in that grain of sand, and that spark hit my eye. And in that moment, I saw that among billions of people on a planet spinning about one of billions of stars in maybe one of trillions of galaxies, I'm a nearly nothing. This recognition freed me. I mean, I didn't have to do anything important after that. I still don't. I don't consider these videos important at all. Instead of importance, I realized, oh, I don't have to do important things. I can find and do what helps. I don't need importance to rule my life, to motivate my life. I don't need a feeling of need. I need to do what's important. I don't need that. Suddenly, my life became clear. It became very, 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 very clear. I could find and do what helped. I could re-intensify my efforts to figure out what might help. Not because it's important, because it's not important. The idea of importance is a dream, a nightmare, really. Instead of basing decisions on importance, I could just do things. I could do things because they felt right to do. Does it really feel right deep down to do it? Okay, I'll do it. If there's something that feels a little off, no, I'm not going to do it. So I switched from living based upon importance and need to living by what truly felt right. I mean, first I would think and look at things from all sorts of different angles and evaluate, reevaluate, but ultimately do what felt right. Well, I have not felt badly for more than a very short period of time on a very, very few days. For example, like when my mother died. But even when I grieved my mother deeply, there was something else that was a little bit lighter. I love unimportance. My niece calls me a very unimportant person. And then she laughs. She likes the fact that I'm unimportant, and I do too. I realize that we're in one big process. I mean, the universe is one big process. How can I be important in that? I'm not. Even the idea of I is goofy. I'm perceiving things. I don't know who the I is. I don't know. I don't know the I of so-called me. Those ideas, I and me and myself, they complicate things unnecessarily. I can move about and decide and learn without thinking in terms of important things like me. But that's not the confession. I guess I'll make the confession in the next video. See ya.